Before the word temperament came about, research has been carried out by different psychologists, including Harvard Business Review, where a Dr. Theodore Levitt, one of the psychologists as well, carried out a research, and in his article, which is titled The Managerial Merry-Go-Round, he pointed out 4 different cognitive styles of people. Now, this cognitive style is what allows people to gather and evaluate information. And these 4 different styles are the systematic thinkers, the intuitive thinkers, the receptive thinkers, and the perceptive thinkers. According to him, these styles affect the way people do their jobs. Hi, and welcome once again to the Review With Me podcast with Mrs. Peace Tamina. Have you caught up on our previous videos and our previous sessions? Have you subscribed to our channel to have a hitch-free watching? Welcome once again, and today we are reading and reviewing chapter 7 of the book, Why You Act the Way You Do by Tim LaHaye. And in chapter 7, we'll be talking about the use of temperament in the workplace. Yes, you heard that right. Temperament as a very important part of your life because it defines, or to a certain extent, who you are. How do you use it in the workplace? If you're ready, come with me while we go on this journey. Alright, so I said earlier, according to my introduction, a lot of research has been done. So I'll be picking, apart from Dr. Theodore, I'll also pick 2 more research on temperament, even though they weren't called temperaments at first. So another research called this same 4 behavioral styles. Now take note of the keyword. Every research ended up with the fact that there were 4 behavioral styles. So another research called this same 4 behavioral styles the expressive people, which we can liken to the sanguines, the driver, which we liken to the choleric, the analytical, which we liken to the melancholy. Yes, you got that right. And we have the amiable, which we liken to the phlegmatic. Alright, so while another person, by the name Bill Sloan, referred to them not as behavioral styles, but he called them styles of the CEO. So it is possible, remember we said in our previous chapters, that each one can actually manage a business. It depends on how well they work on themselves. So according to Bill Sloan, he called them the different styles of the CEO. And he said we have the initiator. Now remember, which of the temperaments is creative? That's the melancholy. So the initiator can be likened to the melancholy. Then we have the thinker, which is likened to the phlegmatic. And then we have the feeler, who is the sanguine. And then we have the sensor, which is the choleric. What are we trying to say? In the workplace, your temperament comes off as very important. So how do you use it? Therefore, just listen to this very simple explanation. The sanguines in a workplace have a high level of assertiveness and a low responsiveness level. Now, the cholerics have a high assertiveness and I just kind of mixed it up. So the sanguine has a high assertiveness and a high responsive level. Remember we said sanguines are actually people persons, so it's possible they relate and respond, they have a high level of responsiveness. Now the choleric, on the other hand, has a high assertiveness and a low responsiveness. Remember, the choleric is more work inclined, that project inclined, than people inclined. Now the melancholy has a very low assertiveness but a high responsiveness, because melancholies are feelers, okay? So it's possible for them to they consider other people in a way, and so they have a high level of responsiveness. And then finally, the phlegmatic has high assertiveness and low responsiveness. Sorry, the phlegmatic has both the high and low. I'm very, very sorry about that. So basically, when we talk about assertiveness and responsiveness in the workplace, we have the sanguine with a high assertiveness, high responsiveness. The choleric has a high assertiveness but a low responsiveness. The melancholy has a low responsiveness, a low assertiveness and a high responsiveness, and then the phlegmatic has both of them on the low side. So very quickly, we'll be looking at some important parts or some important behaviors in the workplace. So number one, we'll start with the basic style. Now when we talk about the basic style, we mean how naturally each temperament will adapt or behave in a workplace. And for the basic system or the basic system style, we have the sanguine first. Now the sanguine will easily adapt. They will adapt very well. They will express themselves very well, and then they will also have a high level of performance. Now for the cholerics, we find out that they will want to take control wherever they find themselves in the workplace. They will want to take control. They want to dominate, and then they are also good drivers when it comes to performance. So once you give a choleric a project, as much as he will roughshod people into ensuring that that project is carried out properly, he's also a good driver. Now the melancholy, you will find them giving support. They will comply with others, and they you can count on them to be analytic of every performance. So with the melancholy, imagine when you have a choleric that just wants to drive people to perform. The melancholy is there to also put check and balance to ensure that there will be no failures in some parts, to analyze every step and every process that wants to be taken. Now for the phlegmatics are conserving, they are conservative, hence they are steady and amiable in their performance. They will also ensure that to a high level or to a certain level there is peace in the workplace. So that's that when it comes to the basic system style of working for each temperament. Now we'll look at how the temperaments respond to conflict resolution when it comes to the workplace. So for the sanguine, they will synergize, they will integrate, and they will collaborate. So even if there is a conflict, one of the ways the sanguines resolve conflicts is they synergize, they integrate, and then they tend to collaborate. So okay, let's do it 50-50, let's have your way, let's bring in yours and mine. So they collaborate to ensure that everything works out well. Now the choleric, on the other hand, when resolving conflict, he engages in either a win or lose. It's either he's winning or he's losing. There's no in between, there's no middle ground for him. So they either want to control the power or they want to compete. And you find out that that's not really nice when it comes to conflict resolution. Remember, we are studying this so you can know about yourself and also be able to identify these behaviors when they show up in your colleagues, and then this will help you extend grace to people because you get to understand them better and where they're coming from, and if possible educate them also on their temperaments and how they can become a better version of themselves. Now for the melancholy, remember we said the choleric will either resolve conflicts by either he wins or he loses. Now for the melancholy, they will either yield or lose. So unlike the choleric that is very forceful and wants to enforce his will, remember the melancholy is let's do things the right way. And so once they try to tell you let's do things the right way, so they're either pushing or later they yield. Okay, I don't want stress. So they are either on the yielding side or losing side. That means they end up suppressing their opinions sometimes in order to accommodate others. I don't really agree with you, but please, I'm just tired. I really don't have time for this. Let's just move on. Can we just move on? And then that's why remember we said the melancholy knows how to bear grudge. They don't really agree with you, but they just want to move on and go ahead with what they have to do so that the work can go on. And then finally, for conflict resolution, when we come to the phlegmatics, they are either they lose or they leave. So they don't, either way, they don't have a win-win situation. Remember, they are peace loving people. So once they engage in a combat, imagine a phlegmatic and a choleric. Of course, you know that the choleric will keep purging, and then the phlegmatic, because they don't want stress, they'll either lose or they will leave that place in in order for work to just end up going on. Therefore, this makes a phlegmatic to live in denial of the presence of conflict. So sometimes they are seeing the traces that conflict is about to happen in the workplace, but because they don't want stress, they don't want to push, they don't want to get into a place of pressure, they will just live in denial and pretend. If we pretend it's not there, then it will disappear. But is that really the best way to handle conflicts? So you that is listening, I want you to just look at these 4 conflict resolution steps and tell me which you feel is actually best in resolving conflict. Remember, we're not here to castigate anyone, we're just here to open our eyes to different ways we behave and different ways we react to things. Alright, so for today, the last thing that we will be looking at when it comes to temperament and your workplace is performance appraisal. Remember, we talked about the basic working style or the basic system of behavior for each temperament in the workplace. We've also talked about the way they resolve conflict. So we're talking about the way they give performance appraisal. Now, for the sanguines, they are dominantly warm, so they are easy. They can appraise people. Once you have a sanguine boss, you do a little thing. Oh, he appreciates you. They are dominantly warm. They really get on the other side of it. For the cholerics, they are dominantly hostile. So no matter how you aim to please a choleric boss, for him there's always room for more. As you're coming, boss, I did this. Do this. Yes, I've done it. Do this. Yes, I've done it. Okay, well, find out immediately he's giving you another one. So you're like, is it that the boss doesn't really appreciate what I'm doing? They are dominantly hostile. Now, for the melancholies, they are submissive, but they are hostile. This hostility is basically due to their perfectionist nature. Remember, we said melancholies are perfectionists. So they are submissive, but in their submissiveness, they are also hostile. And then for the phlegmatics, they are submissive, but they are warm. If you notice, there are some kinds of similarities between the temperaments as it was separated into 2. And why is that? If you remember in chapter 1, we talked about temperaments being extroverted and introverted. And we said the sanguines and the cholerics are extroverted. They are the ones that are all out there. And then the melancholies and the phlegmatics are introverted. So you tend to see some similarities in the phlegmatic and the melancholy, and then similarities in the choleric and the sanguine. Now remember that while we're studying temperament, we just want to help people understand why we act the way we do and help them to learn to modify their communication system, especially in the workplace or wherever you find yourself. Now, according to Pastor Tim LaHaye, he also is of the position that psychological departments in different universities all over the world should bring back the study of temperament and make it permanent. It should not be just a slight thing. They should bring it back and then allow people, every student that is coming through the university should be able to study this. This will help improve effectiveness. Do you get? So imagine if from school we all get to understand and know about temperament. I know I've met some people, and when I talk to them, I try counseling, but I'm trying to find out at first. And they say, okay, what's your temperament? And the next thing I tell me, I don't have a temper. I don't have a temper. I'm actually calm, except if you touch me, if you really push me, I'm like, okay. But that's not what temperament is, right? So imagine if we have a university system where the psychology departments in all our university system bring back the study of temperament. People will begin to work with working knowledge that of first what temperament means, and then as we keep doing that, before what is happening, it crawls into our system, it crawls into our community. Parents that give birth to children will be more observant of their children's temperament. Do you know that these same types of temperaments and behavioral styles are very effective in children? You can have 4 children and all of them are of different temperaments, so they will show for themselves in different ways. And then you see a choleric child and you begin to think, this child is very stubborn, this child is possessed. Is that really the truth? That child may just be a child with a strong personality, and if you check, it will be a choleric. And then you say, this child is very unserious, so unserious. I don't know why you cannot be like your sister that is very quiet, is calm, she's always reading her books. You're trying to compare a sanguine to a melancholy, or you're comparing a choleric to a phlegmatic and say you are always quarreling, always trying to enforce. Can't you see that this one is always trying to keep the peace? By the time this temperament issue is brought back into our society via the education system, it will help a lot of people become aware and will stop comparing children and begin to raise the kind of children we have based on their temperament and personality difference. Also, based on this particular book, the writer posits that it is also important that employers will also get to know about temperament, and then in a way, we don't know how possible this will be, but imagine if every employee is matched with the job that suits them. Remember in chapter 6 we talked about your temperament and your vocation, and then we got to see a lot of vocations and how they are acute to different temperaments. So if our employers or entrepreneurs have the knowledge of temperaments in their working system and know how these temperaments and the people who have this temperament behave, they will be able to match them to the job that will suit them. Now imagine if you are matched with a job that suits you. For example, a sanguine who is now a salesman. Imagine the job satisfaction you will get as an employee, and then the employer will also get a high level of performance. And with this, we come to the end of chapter 7. I'm so grateful to you for staying with me till this point. Did you really enjoy the review? What are your takes on it? Do you think that the study of temperament should be brought back into our universities, hence helping the society become more understanding of why people act the way they do? Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Also like, share and follow. Invite people to join us on this journey. We have lost our culture of reading, and it's high time we bring it back. Join us cultivate the culture of reading once again in our society in order to have a better society. Thank you for staying with me. Make sure you stay tuned for the next chapter. Thank you very much, and God